Hey, Becoming Me.tv, Emily Cummins here, and we're in this series, questions everyone is asking, but no one wants to answer. Today's question is pretty tough. It's a question that many of us have asked or are asking, many of our friends are asking us. Is it okay to live with my boyfriend? I mean, is it? What does God say about that? Hey, grab your coffee and join us as Michelle and Lane unpack this question.
So we have an opportunity in the community that we live in, whether it's young girls, teenagers, young adults, where we get to lead and answer tough questions. I know for me growing up, I wish that I had someone to do the same. And we want to lead, our vision is to lead into not perfection or rules, but really lead them in a way of just simple question of like, why? Why should I do that? Why shouldn't I do this? Instead of saying, don't do this, don't do that, just saying like, why is this better for me? And I know, I wasn't perfect growing up. The question that we're answering today is, should I live with my boyfriend? I never lived with my boyfriend. I definitely stayed the night. I wasn't pure. And so for me, I wish that, growing up, one of the things that I always wished was, man, I wish I had that one person that I could go to, and not for them to say like, don't do this, but lead with vision, like a vision of why not to do this or why not to do that. And so that's where I'm at. I love, Lane and I were talking about it before, and she came up with this great analogy, and you should share it. I was like, that is so good.
No, I just think about like when I was little, say 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Didn't you remember? We used to grow up playing house.
My daughter does it.
To now, I have a 5-year-old too.
I have a 2-year-old. Yeah.
And they're always, you just want to play house. It's what's modeled maybe for you in home. It's what we see on TV and movies. You want to be in the kitchen making food, or you want to be laying the babies down in the bed together.
And now they have like a bed where you can, I know my daughter has like a little playhouse where it's like the husband and the wife are in there. And it's at the table.
Barbies, all of that. It's from when we're little, we fantasize about what it looks like to be married, and you have this dream of what it looks like. And God intended it to be this amazing, beautiful experience. But often we screw up in the process of us being just humans, and we end up broken in little pieces, and we don't get to fulfill what God intended in a marriage, a covenant relationship. I think often we want to practice marriage. We want to play marriage, but God intended marriage to be done to be living together, to really be in a covenant relationship.
Yeah. I once heard it say like you're merging. Marriage means merging. And so you're leaving your father, your mother, and you're merging as one. And so that's what God intended. So this is, I just love that analogy, and it paints the picture for what God really intended. And so,
I think like our culture today has made it so normal to live together before marriage that we don't even know what truth maybe is or what the best would be. We think the best is to try it out and live together, but we don't understand that what happens when you do that, sometimes you end up leaving with broken pieces. Or my mom always gave me this explanation when I was little and trying to practice or explain like saving yourself for marriage or just having the best marriage that you could dream of. And she said, pretend you are this gift. You are this beautiful package. Everything is put together. Sorry, this wrapping's kind of ugly, but it's what we had right now. You're this beautiful package, and when you get married, you give this beautiful present to your husband, and you want to look exactly like what God intended for you to look like in this beautiful package. But when you maybe go and kiss a boyfriend or whatever, that's very basic. You take off one little strand like this, and your boat kind of starts to unfold. And then maybe you say, I want to, when you live together, then you start unwrapping it a little bit more, and maybe the guy takes pieces of you away. I've heard it said too, like, to just test out living together is often like you're testing out to see if they're good for you. It's all a selfish thing. But in marriage is very much the opposite. It's what can I give to you? And so when you're in just a cohabitating relationship, you just kind of start tearing pieces off a little bit at a time. And if it works out and you end up married, you're like, great, but you still kind of have a little bit maybe of struggle, or it's just not that full covenant.
The full foundation. Of
what God intended. But then maybe that relationship doesn't work out, and now you end up trying to put the pieces back together, and you can. There's total redemption in
Yeah.
God. You can't,
Yes.
but still there's just rips and tears and there's baggage that you end up taking into a marriage, which isn't God's ideal. Now, like you said, we're not about perfection and we're not about rules, but God does have a best for you.
Right.
So if somebody's coming to us and asking us, should I live with my boyfriend? We're like, you have to make choices for yourself, but ultimately God's best is not that designed that way.
Right. And I feel like, you know, like I said, I've been married for 5 years and we didn't live together. And like I said, my boyfriend and I in college, we stayed the night. I wasn't pure, but I felt like a season after that, I was single before, you know, my husband and I reconnected. And it's a long story, but during that time, I felt like God saying, you know, we're going to position. He's positioning Lane. He's positioning me. He's positioning other people to lead up this next generation, because what they're going through is not really what I went through. I remember my grandma saying, like, that's not what God intended for you. That's not what God intended for your life. I know, Lane, you told the story of this package and what your mom said. That's beautiful. But I feel like the generation coming up from behind us, they're hearing, try it out, test the waters, just like you said. But we are called to bring up the next generation. We are called to give them that vision of why and why we want God in the center of it, because they're not hearing that. And so I just think it's important. If you want to say, do you want to live with your boyfriend? I'd say no. That's my direct answer. But that's not how we lead, and that's not how we lead a conversation. We wouldn't lead with rules and regulations. We wouldn't sit down and go, these are all the rules. These are why, blah, blah, blah. I think it's more of like a vision, like saying, why? Why does God see that? Invite God into the picture. Invite God into the conversation and say why. Instead of, and even into our homes. Like, I love my home. I love my husband. Lane's the same. Like, I love watching her with her kids and her husband and serving them. And she's so selfless. But I think even just sharing those moments and inviting them into your life. So whether you're mentoring and saying, you know what, how do I lead? I would say lead with vision, bringing God into it, leading with the why, as opposed to the rules and regulations of leadership. Yeah. And then also inviting them into your world or inviting them into your past. Like, it's not always easy for me to go, I stayed the night, I wasn't pure and all those things, but I think it's good to tell your testimony, but to show the redemption, because I think some people think I'm doomed if I'm doing these things. Yeah. But realistically, God is a great God. He's a God of grace and mercy, both of those things. And I think that it's key to really say, like, even if you're living with your boyfriend now, to say, you know what, God wants to see you through that, and He has a vision and a purpose for your life, but we want to lead well, and we want to lead, I don't know, so.
Yeah, I mean, that the ending of this is tricky, because we wish we could sit down with you and grab you and hear your story and understand really where you're at. But I think if you read the scriptures and read the word, God's intention is to, you know, secure that sexual intimacy, all of that in a marriage relationship. It's already super complicated and tricky. We've all been through marriage counseling, all of that, even without all the screw ups. So just, I can only imagine, you know, like, the less baggage you can bring into a marriage is God's pure intention for you. And I mean, you want to be able to walk out that relationship with your husband and know that it was founded on truth and know that it was founded in a beautiful way.
So we love you. We're excited for the vision that God has for your life. And thank you, Emily, for letting us speak today and just share what God has put on your heart and what He's put on your heart to share with many girls or even men that, you know, want to hear about these tough questions. So,
yeah.
Thank you.